Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with another character. Bronya is on the table, and let's just say that Bronya is probably going to carry this game most of the way through its early days in terms of just raw power. This unit is absolute monster, and yeah, let's get into it. So first of all, we have to analyze that it's Wind and Harmony. Harmony, as we know, is a offensive utility support. What does that actually mean? It means that she does a bit of damage as well as a lot of supporting. Supporting is usually the main task of the Harmony character, but they have a nice bit of DPS that they can do in very certain situations, so bear that in mind as we move forward. So, her basic attack is the same as everyone else's, 110% to a single enemy at the high end, standard. Her skill, though, is a bit different. Dispels a debuff from a single ally, standalone, dispels a debuff, advances forward their actions by 100%, meaning that that ally that you dispelled the debuff from will now go next after Bronya, and then also increases their damage by a specific percentage that goes all the way up to 79% for one turn, which essentially means that you use the skill on this character, that character will go next turn after Bronya, and they'll have a massive damage boost. So it's like you have to kind of plan around it, but regardless, your character will have a 79% damage boost after a skill cast, which is really good. So far, great, by the way. This, if you don't even want to look at the rest of the kit, this one skill is incredible. A dispel, an advanced forward action, as well as a damage increase. A 3-in-1, the Three Musketeers, the trifecta. Incredible performance so far by Bronya. But it's further extrapolated by and making her better, the ultimate. So, her ultimate, increase the attack of all allies by a certain percentage, 64 on the high end, which is a lot, and their crit damage equal to a certain percentage of Bronya's crit damage, plus a certain other percentage of crit damage for 2 turns. So, obviously, the first part is incredible as it is, so you get a 64% attack increase to all allies, standalone good. Crit damage increase equal to a certain percentage of Bronya's crit damage, which that part there is not, going to be the highest scaling thing, 17% of her own crit damage. That means you're going to have to funnel crit damage into her, and it's going to be fairly difficult, so obviously be wary of that. But if you're going for a bit more of a support build, you'd probably just funnel crit damage on her without really trying, and that's all you'll do. Just every crit damage main stat that you can get from relics, you'd probably go for that. Standalone because of a trace. There is a trace a bit later that is gonna. It just boggles the mind how this is a trace and it's not been nerfed, but maybe it'll be changed. Who knows? But there's that part, and then the last part. I presume this may be a flat crit damage increase because it's just plus 12 to 20 to 21% increase. But it also could mean just plus another amount of scaling of Bronya's crit damage. I'm not exactly sure of which one this is, but it could be either way, so just go with that in mind. For 2 turns, so it's pretty good. So far, her damage increasing potential is incredibly strong. Moving onwards, though, her basic attack, after using her basic attack, Bronya's next action will advance forward by a certain percentage, 33 on the high end, which is really good. Using her basic attack is going to be a pretty frequent thing with this character as she does something really spicy in the trace section. And then her technique, after using Bronya's technique in the next battle, all allies attack increased by 15. Standard. You probably would be using this one for a fair bit, and also I'm pretty sure this is one of the abilities that you can use on top of another one, techniques rather. And so you can probably double down on this one. 15% attack increase is pretty good for 2 turns. Standard kit, just of the usable things, very fucking strong, by the way. So obviously just damage, but these two right here are incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. So Bronya may be one of the early game units. I think I said something about one of the 4-star units already being a Bennett-like character. I think that was about Asta or something like that, or maybe. I think Bronya will be the Bennett-like unit, but instead of it being like Bennett where it's a 4-star, Bronya is just going to be a 5-star. So that's that. Regardless, moving on to the traces. The first trace is the one that I'm talking about with her being you just funnel crit damage, is that her basic attack crit rate increases to 100%. There's like really nothing to say about it except for okay. That's really strong. It means that her only damage source always will crit. She only does damage through her own auto attack, her normal attack. And it's a guaranteed crit, so you just funnel into crit damage. You get higher value from the burst by it scaling higher, as well as your crit, your auto attack will always crit and thus deal incredible amounts of damage, specifically obviously after you use your burst, which is great. Trace 2, at the beginning of battle, increase all allies' defense by 20% for 2 turns. Just a bit of a defense increase. And then lastly, a military might. When Bronya is on the field, all allies deal 10% more damage. Just a passive 10% damage increase. It's pretty fucking like boosted and cracked and whatnot. All the big words to describe someone being overpowered. She's just incredible. By far the best unit to get, probably baseline. I think there may be another one people talk about, Sealy, I believe. We'll have to wait until we get to Sealy. But Bronya, so far, in my opinion, a fucking incredible unit to get, honestly. Holy crap. So many good things. Buffing, actual damage, buffing, advanced forward actions, damage reduction, damage boosting. Just so many things. So much buffing. And this is kind of what you want from an offensive support character. Is a lot more buffing and like the offensive part to be very minute. The offensive only comes from the guaranteed crit rate in the normal attack with high crit damage scaling, obviously. But the character can sound great as standard, but obviously the character's going to be even better when we get some Eidolons on her. So let's have a look-see. So first Eidolon, Hone Your Strength. Using Bronya's skill has a 50% chance of recovering 1 skill point. This effect has a 1-turn cooldown. This is fine. I say this is fine. I'm not really like the point refunding stuff is very interesting and I like it. It's 50% chance, so it's not guaranteed, so you can't really say that it's incredibly reliable. But you have a chance to refund 1 skill point after you use your skill, which is okay. End of story, really. That's all it is. Moving on, Eidolon 2. After the ally targeted by Bronya's skill takes action, their speed is increased by 30%. Meaning essentially the character that has their action advanced forward by the skill for that next turn will also have a speed increase, kind of guaranteeing that they will always go first. I'm not sure if advanced action forward means always going to go after the character that casted the ability, essentially. But if it doesn't, then this 30% skill speed increase will guarantee that, essentially. And yeah, that's what all it really is. Eidolon 3, Ultimate +2, as well as Basic Attack +1, which is kind of what you wanted. I was going to be very precarious and tedious about this one. But Ultimate +2 on the Eidolon 3 is very good, seeing as your Ultimate is your highest value damage increase. And so having that there is very good. And obviously Basic Attack +1 is fine. Fourth Eidolon. After an ally uses a basic attack on an enemy with wind weakness, Bronya immediately launches a follow-up attack on the target, dealing wind damage equal to a certain percentage of Bronya's attack. This can only be triggered once per turn. This is fine, a follow-up attack. You may think of going for a follow-up relic. I wouldn't recommend it. It's just not worth it in the end. It's absolutely not worth it, so just don't think about that. But it is a nice little bonus, 80% damage for Bronya to deal once per turn. I'm not sure if it's 1 per each character's turn or if it's once per Bronya's turn. I don't fucking know how the turns work, to be quite frank with you, but I'm just going to assume it's once per character's turn because that's usually how turn-based games work, is that each character has 1 turn. Regardless though, skill +2 on Eidolon 5 as well as basic attack +1. Obviously, you kind of need that. And then last one is Piercing Rainbow. The ally damage boost effect on Bronya's skill extends in duration by 1 turn, which is, it doesn't sound as overpowered as you may think, but it actually is quite strong, getting essentially 2 turns worth of damage boost from 1 cast for this high of a percentage boost is quite incredible. Bronya is an absolute fucking monster of a unit, and by the way, I will say this guaranteed, if you do get a Bronya early days as like one of your first characters in the game, you are very lucky and you are going to probably very easily succeed in a lot of things, as these damage boosts are fucking ridiculous. So just bear that in mind. If you do get this character, you're going to be in a very good position. So, what do we know from Bronya? Just a quick summary. Skill is a massive damage boost, as well as a dispel of a debuff, as well as an action advancement forward by 100%. Essentially, you're going to save your unit, you're going to damage boost him, and he's going to go first next turn. Then you have her burst, which is an incredibly large damage boost to all allies, attack percentage, crit damage increase by a large percentages. So you're going to want to go for crit damage scaling with Bronya, and that's about it, right? Crit damage on the substats or main stats of your relics and whatnot, and so forward. Other than that, she'll do a decent amount of damage by herself with the crit rate being 100% on her basic attack, and she'll also be able to boost defense with another trace, as well as deal more damage with certain other trace as well. And other than that, she's just gets a small bonuses throughout her Eidolons, which don't hinder her or buff her gameplay too crazily, but they just let her kind of do small little bonuses like speed increase or skill point refunding, or a bit more damage, or a skill duration extension. So essentially, Eidolon Bronya is not going to be like the best Bronya. The best Bronya is going to be standard Bronya. You're going to want to level up all of her things to max level, so she has max value. That's all. Eidolons are going to be super important. If I was going to say the most important one is probably Eidolon 2 again. Other than that, it's pretty okay. Eidolon 3 at most because of the ultimate +2. But that's that. Let us now move on to the light cones, because obviously every character has their signature light cone, and so does Bronya. So the battle isn't over. We've seen this one before. It increases the wearer's energy regeneration rate by a specific a certain percentage, and regenerates 1 skill point whenever the wearer uses their ultimate on an ally. Kind of doesn't make sense for Bronya because she doesn't use her ultimate on an ally. She uses her ultimate on allies, but you'll just refund a skill point when you use her ultimate, which is fine. This effect can be triggered after every 2 uses of the wearer's ultimate, which is not all the time, but every 2 uses. So you have to go 1, and then another one, and then the third one will have a hit. So I believe that's mathematically correct. And then when the user or wearer uses this skill, the next ally taking action deals an increased amount of damage for 1 turn. Having her signature having a signature light cone is going to mean that essentially after your skill usage, the character that you use your skill on is going to be cooked in damage, as they're getting at the high end 79%, plus obviously here, if you just get the tier 1, you'll get 30 plus extra, so what, that's going to be 109% damage increase, which is fucking cooked. Yeah, that's going to be her best in slot, no argument about it really. But what about 4 stars? What 4 stars would be good? Well, it's hard to come to a conclusion, obviously, but Carve the Moon, Weave the Clouds probably wouldn't be bad. I have to read this all again, so bear with me. One of the following effects is applied randomly at the start of combat, and whenever the wearer takes action, you get a random effect. So, Bronya starts battle or does anything, it'll switch between attack increase, increasing crit damage, or energy regeneration rate. It's a hard one to like recommend because it's like RNG based, but you do have a 2 in 3 chance of getting a good buff, which is the damage increase. Attack percent or crit damage. But then you also have a chance to get energy regeneration rate, which is fine, I guess. So this one would be fine, but obviously do bear in mind that the chance of you getting not a good buff is 1 in 3, or not a useful buff in the current moment, right? So bear that in mind. Memories of the past increases wearer's break effect, and when the wearer attacks and energy is regenerated. That's fine. It's going to be a bit more utility because of break effect, so go with that if you need it. And obviously, if this is your only one, it's going to be your best one, obviously. But again, not going to be her best in slot for 4 stars. And then after entering battle, all allies deal the same damage type as the wearer. Damage dealt increases by a certain percentage. Sorry. It's a situation one because when all allies deal the same damage type as the wearer, you need specifically a wind team to do this one, so it's not overly recommended in my opinion. I wouldn't overly recommend this one, as everyone needs to be wind. So the best 4 star is gonna be Carve the Moon, Weave the Clouds, but even then, I just wouldn't recommend it. I know it just feels very iffy. For 3 stars, just because the 4 stars feel very iffy about the character, Chorus is gonna be your best choice for Bronya here. Chorus, followed by, wrong tab. Chorus is the best 3 star, Carve the Moon, Weave the Clouds, best 4 star, and obviously her signature, which is the only one, is the best 5 star. So that is that. Now, relic sets is quite simple. Going to the actual relic set, it's just the wind one, Eagle of the Twilight Line. Just use this one. It's going to be pretty much the most useful for her. Increase wind damage on 2 set and 4 set after whether it uses ultimate. The action is advanced forward by 25%. Reason why is that after you cast your ultimate, you do want to be able to quickly cast her skill on some other ally, so that one ally has all the buffs possible. That is kind of the build that I'm going for in my mind. I think that will give her the best value. Obviously, it's going to be rather hard to pull that off because of speed discrepancies and whatnot, but hopefully if it does work, being able to use her ultimate, and then straight away being able to use her skill on an ally. That ally turns goes next, and you just rinse the enemies. So that is that. As for the planetary ornament, it actually just is 2 choices, as we know that she has 100% crit rate on her basic attack, and that is her only form of damage. Celestial Differentiator and Inert Salsoda are immediately eliminated because they boost crit rate, and you kind of don't want that. The ones that are kind of like recommended, in my opinion, is a Space Healing Station as well as the Talia Kingdom of Bantry. One is just for damage and boosting her damage further, making her even stronger offensive character, just because it's good to have offensive characters. And the other one, Talia Kingdom of Bantry, is break effect increase, which is very good. Being able to break wind resistant characters, wind weakness characters a little bit better. But These are the two that I recommend. Ones that could work as well is Sprightly Von Whack. The reason is just because of the energy regen, and more energy regen means more ultimate casting and, like, you know, using it in the middle of combat and at certain points kind of getting the advantage at certain times. So you could go for Sprightly Von Whack. The start of it also, or the last part of it, certain speed requirements, sorry. And whereas actions, it is advantage 50% immediately upon entering battle. It's a bit more about immediately on battle, so it's a bit harder to recommend it, but it is, whoopsie. It is okay to use this one, but again, I'd recommend Space Sealing Station or Talia Kingdom of Banditry, because they're just slightly better. So that's one of these two planetary ornaments, or rather, I say Eagle in the Twilight Line, because it's the best one. Everything else kind of stinky poopy. And that is that. Ladies and gentlemen, Bronya is an absolute fucking monster unit, dude. She's pretty much guaranteed as an S character on the tier list. But I'll obviously put the tier list together in my own time after we've done all these analyses. Bronya is a unit. If you get her, you're very lucky. If you don't get her, well, hopefully you do get her eventually. But obviously, she's not classified as the most overpowered unit in the game. There's another unit by the name of Sealy. Now, I'm not sure when we'll cover Sealy, but when we do, I'll be very interested to see what her kit is about. But for now, hope you guys enjoyed, hope you guys learned, and if you guys did enjoy this video, like and subscribe, and really appreciate supporting the channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Stay safe. Peace out.